Mark Wahlberg might be Hollywood royalty today, but behind that charming grin hides a shocking, troubled past that could have ended his career before it even began. This isn't just a story about fame and fortune, it's about second chances, redemption, and the gritty truth behind one of Hollywood's biggest stars. From music videos and Calvin Klein ads to blockbuster films, Mark Wahlberg has climbed the Hollywood ladder like few ever have, earning Oscar nods and becoming the world's highest-paid actor at his peak. But how does someone with a criminal past, riddled with violence and controversy, manage to turn his life around completely? Born in 1971, Wahlberg grew up in the tough streets of Boston's Dorchester neighborhood. The youngest of 9 kids, life wasn't easy, especially after his parents divorced when he was just 11. Money was tight, streets were rough, and Mark quickly found himself caught in a dangerous cycle of crime and drugs. By age 13, he was already hooked on cocaine, and by 14, he dropped out of school entirely. This then led to stealing cars, selling drugs, mugging wealthy kids, and getting into street fights. The darkness deepened when his violence took a disturbing racial turn. At just 15 years old, he hurled rocks at a group of 4th-grade black children on a school field trip and shouted hateful racial slurs with no remorse. Just 2 years later, high on PCP and blinded by hate, 16-year-old Mark attacks 2 Vietnamese American men without provocation, smashing one in the head and knocking him unconscious and punching another man in the face while spewing racial slurs. These assaults were so vicious that police charged the teenager with attempted murder. By the time the dust settled, Mark Wahlberg was an inmate in a Massachusetts prison, serving time for a hate-fueled felony assault. Locked in a cell at 16, Mark Wahlberg had an abundance of time to reflect on the wreckage of his young life. Violence and bigotry had already consumed him. Sitting in a tiny cell, the teenager made a promise to himself and to God that he would not return to his life of hate and violence. Just 45 days in jail could have simply hardened a young criminal. Instead, for Mark, it ignited a flicker of faith and remorse. He left prison with a new resolve, to seek a second chance. He turned to a Catholic priest from his neighborhood, Father James Flavin. He had known Mark since he was a troubled 13-year-old, but never gave up on him. In fact, he became Mark's spiritual mentor. Years later, Mark would credit this parish priest with guiding him onto the right path. "He's been in my life since I was 13, Mark said. He married me and my wife and baptized all my children." With the help of Father Flavin and family supporting him, Mark gradually pulled himself out of the spiral of his previous life that led him astray. His older brother, Donnie Wahlberg, then a member of the hit boy band New Kids on the Block, extended a lifeline in the early 90s. Donnie helped 19-year-old Mark land a record deal and reinvent himself as the rapper Marky Mark. Suddenly, the ex-con from Dorchester was performing on stage, scoring a breakout hit with Good Vibrations, and became infamous for performing in flamboyant underwear ads. A far cry from orange prison garb. The music persona Marky Mark was wild, shirtless, and brash, capitalizing on his chiseled physique and bad boy image. On the surface, he had traded one kind of notoriety for another. Yet underneath, Mark was evolving. By the mid-90s, Mark was ready to shed the Marky Mark image and try something new. That's when Hollywood came calling. He made his acting debut in 1994 and, to the astonishment of many skeptics, proved he had real talent. It was roles in films like Basketball Diaries alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Fear that put him on the map as a serious actor. In 1997, he took a daring leap, starring in Boogie Nights, a drama about the porn industry. The film was a hit, and Mark's portrayal of Dirk Diggler stunned critics who never expected such depth from the former Calvin Klein poster boy. It was the role that transformed Mark Wahlberg into an A-list actor, erasing the Marky Mark once and for all. The one-time street thug had officially conquered Hollywood. Amid this rapid rise, something quietly remarkable was happening in Mark's personal life. He was rediscovering the Catholic faith of his childhood in a profound way. He'd attend Mass on Sundays, sneaking into the back pew in a baseball cap to avoid causing a scene. For a while, Mark kept his faith low-key. He didn't want to appear preachy or distract fellow parishioners with his celebrity status. In his mind, religion was personal. But as years passed, he began to sense that God was calling him to a greater purpose than just becoming a superstar. Success alone wasn't enough. "You know, it's not popular in my industry, but I cannot deny my faith. That's an even bigger sin." Mark said firmly during a TV interview. It was February 22, 2023, Ash Wednesday morning, and millions of Americans watched on the Today Show as Mark Wahlberg sat there, calm and confident, a bold ash cross emblazoned on his forehead. He discussed fasting for Lent and promoting a Catholic prayer app, unashamed of the gospel even on mainstream airwaves. "I don't want to jam it down anybody's throat," he explained about sharing his beliefs, "but I do not deny my faith. It's important for me to share that with people." Not everyone applauded. Some critics rolled their eyes, dismissing it as a publicity stunt. Others dredged up Mark's darkest chapters to challenge the sincerity of his conversion. Every few years, it seems, his 1980s hate crimes returned to the headlines. In 2023, when Mark presented an award to the predominantly Asian cast of Everything Everywhere All at Once at the SAG Awards, social media lit up with reminders of his racially fueled attacks on the Asian men decades prior. Mark stayed composed amid the chatter, neither defensive nor dismissive. He has never shied away from acknowledging his past sins. Mark Wahlberg's career continued to thrive, but not without sacrifices and slings. He's faced snubs and skepticism in an entertainment world that often finds devout religion uncool. Yet, through it all, Mark remained true to his convictions. It's a balance, he says. He doesn't preach hellfire on set or judge others' lifestyles, but he won't pretend his faith doesn't matter. He leads by quiet example. As Mark explained, they, my kids, know that Dad can't start the day without being in prayer. Hopefully, instead of me forcing it on them, they'll say, if it works for Dad, maybe it'll work for us, and gravitate toward it on their own. This is how Mark navigates Hollywood, by living his faith rather than lecturing. Even co-stars and crew observed his consistency. The guy who wakes up at 2:30 a.m. for a workout and a prayer. The guy who goes to church every Sunday without fail, whether he's on location or at home. From movies like The Departed to big-budget roles like Transformers: Age of Extinction and raunchy comedies like Ted, Mark's refusal to sell his soul to Hollywood became most evident in the choices he made at the peak of his fame. One pivotal moment in this inner conflict came when Mark publicly admitted regret over one of his most acclaimed roles, the very role that made him a serious actor in the first place. In 2017, while speaking to young Catholics, he surprised everyone by mentioning Boogie Nights. Yes, the same award-winning film that had catapulted him to stardom. Mark revealed that he actually prays for forgiveness for his role as a porn star in that movie. "I just always hope that God is a movie fan and also forgiving, because I've made some poor choices in my past," he said wryly, half joking and half serious, leaving some pundits asking how could he bite the hand that fed him. That same passion for authenticity drove Mark to pursue film projects that others in Hollywood wouldn't touch. Case in point, Father Stu. In 2022, Mark both produced and starred in Father Stu, a labor of love based on the true story of Stuart Long, a rough-and-tumble boxer turned priest who found God after a life of failure and suffering. Wahlberg saw in Stu Long's saga a mirror of his own journey from sinner to servant. Father Stu was released with mixed reviews and modest box office returns. Hollywood elites didn't flock to celebrate it, and some critics couldn't get past the film's unabashedly religious core. But Mark wasn't deterred by the numbers or the noise. In his view, if even a handful of viewers found encouragement to turn their lives around, the project was worth it. "I feel like this is starting a new chapter for me. Doing things like this, real substance, can help people," he told one interviewer earnestly. Indeed, Mark Wahlberg has hinted that his future in entertainment will be purpose-driven. He's spoken of focusing on faith-based or uplifting content and even suggested he might step away from the Hollywood spotlight sooner rather than later. After decades of hustling for hits, Mark sees his success as a platform to serve a higher good. "I definitely want to focus on making more, not necessarily just faith-based content, but things that will help people," he said, looking forward to what he calls a new chapter. This shift is not just talk, it's backed by life choices. In 2022, Mark made a headline-grabbing decision to relocate his family out of Hollywood, literally, selling his Los Angeles mansion and moving with his wife Rhea and their 4 children to Nevada for a fresh start. The goal? To give his kids a better life away from the Hollywood fishbowl, where they could pursue their own dreams and faith without undue pressure.